Moves us on to item 8.12, approval of the resolution setting the salary of the elected sheriff at 5% above that of the undersheriff, and the salaries of the auditor, assessor, clerk, coroner, and treasurer, elected officials, to that of the highest paid Mason County Commissioner, effective January 1st, 2020, and thereafter. Just ask staff to come forward and do a briefing, and then we'll move on to public comment.
Commissioners, we have a resolution setting the salary of the electeds as well as the sheriff. The electeds are set at the salary of the highest paid commissioner, and the sheriff would be set at 5% of that of the undersheriff, and that would become effective January 1 of 2020 and thereafter.
Okay, very good. Any questions for staff? Okay, any questions from the public for staff? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into public comment. If you'd like to comment, raise your hand. The chair will recognize you. Again, keep in mind we're going to try to adhere to that 3-minute time cap. Auditor?
Mr. Chairman, Patty McGuire, County Auditor. I speak today to oppose a pay raise for the auditor. When I ran for this office, I was well aware of what I was running for and what it paid. Although I took a significant pay cut to take this job, that was my choice and I'd do it again. In the year that I was running for this office, no one ever said to me, I'd run for auditor if only it paid more. I have a fabulous staff that manages to make me look good, and I do not believe that I deserve a bigger pay raise than what they are receiving, but that's exactly what you're considering. Finally, if there's extra money for the auditor's office, I have a list of about 50 things that I would rather spend money on before I give myself a pay raise. I didn't ask for this pay raise, and I think it sends the wrong message about what our priorities are in this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I'm Patty McLean, assessor, new assessor. So I agree with Patty McGuire. A couple of years ago we had budget cuts, and unfortunately I was one of the budget cuts. And in lieu of me getting a pay raise, I'd rather see my staff get it in lieu of me getting a raise also, because they do work hard in the office to keep the doors open on Fridays now. So I'm just in agreement with Patty McGuire.
Good, thank you. Any additional public comment?
Thank you. Commissioners, thank you for letting me speak. To start with, I'd just like to say that I greatly respect the office of our sheriff. I really appreciate the work that he's done. He's really upheld a lot of the will of the voters of Mason County, and I thank you guys for doing the same. But personal politics aside, it really doesn't matter. It's really just a matter of common sense. Our sheriff should be earning more than his deputies, and so I would just ask that you really consider this, look at this, and approve this situation, even if it's not for Casey. It's for every future sheriff, anybody that's ever going to serve in this office. So I would ask that you approve this measure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Any additional public comment? Okay, hearing none. Public comment.
Thank you, Commissioner. Hold on my notes here. My name is Travis Adams. I'm the undersheriff at the Mason County Sheriff's Office, and I'm here to support this proposal. I've been here for about better part of 2.5 decades at the Mason County Sheriff's Office. Served here for a long time, since the mid-1990s. During that entire time, I was one of the negotiators for the deputies and supervisors, negotiated a lot of contracts on their behalf, and now I negotiate contracts on the other side. So I've been intimately involved with that for well over 20 years at the Sheriff's Office. Rather than regale you with the history of contract negotiations in Mason County, I just want to make a couple points that I think are salient here. I did a little bit of research the other day, and I came across an article from June 20th, 2016 from the Paulsbo Police Department. Paulsbo Police Department has 17 sworn officers, and I believe they have 3 office staff. So they have 20 people that work at the Paulsbo Police Office. Prior to 2016, their police chief made $125,000. When their police chief made the determination that they were going to leave, they determined that they had to raise the pay rate to between $135,000 and $142,000 in order to get qualified applicants for the position of police chief in a 20-person department. Right now, in Port Orchard, the previous police chief made $133,000. They had 30 total employees at Paulsbo Police Department. Not being able to find enough qualified applicants, they have raised the pay rates to between $146,000 and $155,000 a year. This is consistent across municipalities all over the place in Washington State for law enforcement officials. In counties, in many of the counties, a middle manager at the rank of lieutenant will make tens of thousands of dollars more than our current sheriff. Part of the problem that we have seen over recent contracts, which is good for our deputies, is they have received pay rates, pay increases over the years, especially the last couple of contracts, which have moved them up within their comparable range and has given them comparable pay, and they are pretty well paid, consistent with their comparables. The problem has been that the sheriff's pay has gone up not nearly at that rate, and we are at the point now where some of our top deputies and our supervisors make as much or more than the sheriff. Now, when our people, who are fantastic folks, who are very well trained, are experts in the field, have the opportunity to move to any department in the region and make considerably more money rather than go for the top spot in our organization, that is a problem for Mason County. It's also a problem for Mason County if our own people are disincentivized to run for that elected office due to the pay rates that are pretty much consistent across the Northwest. We are going to get applicants or people filing for office who are at best underqualified and at worst not qualified at all. And for the chief law enforcement executive in Mason County, that is not acceptable for the citizens of Mason County, I don't believe. And I certainly know that our personnel do not accept that as being reasonable. And so I strongly urge you to pass this. I very much appreciate the other elected officials in coming in and talking about the situation that they find themselves in. Our current sheriff did very much the same thing. He took a pay decrease of probably about $18,000 to come over and be the sheriff when he ran over here. But at this point, with the compression in the pay scale between our supervisors and the sheriff's position and the other opportunities that are in the field for law enforcement, it is the responsibility of good leadership to ensure that our chief law enforcement executive has a pay scale that will attract the best qualified people for Mason County. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Okay, hearing none, I will close public comment and move to commissioner deliberation or motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the resolution setting the salaries of the elected sheriff at 5% above the undersheriff and the salaries of the auditor, assessor, clerk, coroner, and treasurer elected officials to that of the highest paid Mason County Commissioner effective January 1st, 2020 and thereafter.
Is there a second? I will second that motion. It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution setting the salary of the elected sheriff at 5% above the undersheriff and the salaries of the auditor, assessor, clerk, coroner, and treasurer elected officials to be that of the highest paid Mason County Commissioner effective January 1st, 2020 and thereafter. Any discussion?
Yes, I will. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be opposing this, and I believe for very, very good reason. This is one of the few times I actually wrote things down. I usually don't do that, but this is too important. I need to make sure that we cover a few things so that we're clear on a few things. First of all, we are not talking about a regular employee. We are talking about an elected official. And you can't select pay amounts for elected officials with the idea of doing anything specifically for a person. It's actually wrong because that person may not be there, and if that person's not there, the only requirement is that they're 18 years old and a registered voter. They don't have to show up for work like everybody else does. They can go and do a lot of things that if you don't show up, you don't do something, nobody gets on you. It's a completely different thing than going out on the street, going out in the middle of the night and patrolling and stuff like that. With that being said, there was a comment about making more, the deputies making more. There's a lot of overtime with the deputies. Matter of fact, 2 years ago, out of our 5 top paid people in the whole county, 2 of them was a judge and prosecuting attorney. The other 3 were deputies for the whole county. We had one deputy that made $120,000+ that year because they choose to do the overtime. That's how that works, and I'm not complaining about that. I appreciate that they do that. But it is a big difference between an elected official. Now, there are those that ask the question on me being not supportive of this, whether or not it's political. I'll let you make up your own mind. Median household income for this county is $53,000 a year. That's household income, not one person, household. I truly don't believe that any elected official should be making more than $100,000 a year in Mason County, a county where the household median income is $53,000. Specific increases for one person. You see that we have 2 things separated out here. We have an increase for the electeds, of which several are asking that it not be put into place. It's not said in our paperwork, but that amount is what, 6.3% increase. Now, the one for the sheriff, you're looking at an increase. They currently make $96,000 and change. That's $96,000 a year for an elected position. This would be an increase to our budget of $39,000 plus. This is the largest increase for any individual in the history of Mason County by a long shot. I don't think that that's justifiable in any way, because again, these people know what they're making when they run for office. They choose to run for office. And although there may be an argument on whether or not we can attract good people or not, I want to remind you that 5 years ago for $85,000, we had a person that had 8 years of experience apply for that job and won the election. Last year, we had a person that had 12 years of experience for that job. They put their name in and they won that election. I say that the number that we're talking about pays plenty enough to get qualified applicants, or we wouldn't have had the sheriff that we had, and we wouldn't have Sheriff Weibach before that. Again, if we're looking at doing this for one specific person, when it comes to a raise like that, I don't think that that's justifiable. In fact, in my opinion, I think it's a gifting of public funds. I don't think anybody can justify an increase for any employee in this county of a number that size. Here recently, we've been in the middle of our union negotiations. We got quite a few contracts that are out there. We went out to all our unions and we explained to them that we're hurting for money. Please consider taking less. Please consider negotiating with us and going for an agreement that will save everybody, so we don't have to worry about laying people off. We don't have to worry about the future, as we've been able to fix our books, we've been able to fix our budget, but whatever money we have, we need to use to go forward. One of the unions trying to help us, as they had in the past, I want to make that clear. Years ago, we had another budget issue. The Teamsters stepped up and they made a different contract negotiation. People want to say how rough they are. But to us, they were very kind. They were one of the Teamsters unions, one of the first ones to negotiate with us, and we're trying to get parables amongst everybody. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's going to be voting on it here shortly. Well, the first one that voted first is going to get hurt the worst by this. The Teamsters Union agreed at 1.5% for this year, 1.75% for next year increase, 2% the year after that. We're looking at increases for the elected officials of 6.3% and 36% for one individual sheriff. How do we keep our trust with them when we went to them and told them that we needed their help? But yet, for our other electeds and our other people that we're connected to, we will treat them differently than we treated those union members and the employees that count on us to believe in us when we go and talk to them, to be straight with them. Comparables. Currently, right now, we have 7 comparables that we use. We are the 6th smallest one. There's only one county in our comparables that's smaller than Mason County. If we were to give an increase like this, We will be changing a wage from basically the bottom three are $100 a month off from each other. Literally, $100 a month. So our sheriff is right there with the bottom three. We'll be changing it, and we'll be competing with with counties that are in the comparables, like Skagit County. Skagit County is 100% our size. 100%. 122,000 people. They have a budget that's 100% larger. They have twice our budget. And we'll be like $1,000 off from what they're paying for that person. We are not the same as Skagit County. We're not the same as these other counties. And again, it's an elected position that we're talking about. 40K is the largest increase I have a hardest time even understanding how we could even think that that's okay. Now, as we're going forward, I hope that our commission will reconsider in order to save face with our unions and in order to be realistic to our community. I've asked in the past that we have a salary commission. If we think that the elected officials deserve that kind of pay raise, let the people come forward and tell us that they think that that's what they want. A salary commission could be put together, and the people themselves can tell us if that's justified. And if it is, hey, I'm for it. I can't justify it with my vote, that's for sure. I can't see how anybody could. 40K on one person, largest pay increase in the history of Mason County. We're losing public trust, employee trust. We're crushing our own negotiations. The next Teamster contract went down 100% against after this came public. 100% against. We just had one of the Teamsters vote for it. So with that, I myself, again, I think it's a special treatment. I think it's offensive. I think it's offensive to the community, and I myself cannot support it. I would rather see us spend these monies from both of these raises, go the same as everybody else, 1.5%, which would put our sheriff actually above the other ones at 1.5%, above those other bottom ones. It'd be the third one from the bottom, not the second as our size. I'd rather see us spend that money on perhaps a new deputy or a code enforcement or animal control. We have a lot of other needs than to take care of our own electeds. We should not be any different or any better than the people that we're serving and that we're negotiating with.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Any additional discussion? Commissioner Trask?
So, I'd like everyone to know that this was not a quick decision. As far as I was concerned, with a lot of prayer, a lot of thought went into this for months. I used resources that were just not Mason County. I'm fortunate to be on the Legislative Steering Committee for the counties and was able to talk to other commissioners about what we're doing here. And other commissioners, other counties are going to be doing the same thing. They're in the process of doing the same thing right now because of the trying to get qualified candidates and to keep them and to encourage employees to go for an elected position. Right now they don't want to because they're making more pay. And this is not about a person. This is about a position and the ability to attract qualified candidates for the future. It's not about the here and now. It's about what we want for Mason County in the future. Who do we want? I prefer somebody that's qualified, not 18 years old. I prefer somebody that has a lot of experience, maybe that's in our sheriff's office right now, to want to become the sheriff. In the assessor's office, in the auditor's office, in every other elected office, I would like to encourage them to step forward and run for office. The pay is good, but because they have the pride in Mason County like I do. Our sheriff is more than just a sheriff, and we have a jail. Unlike a lot of counties, they don't have a jail. We do have a jail. We have other services, other things going on in our county. And so I would like to thank our elected officials and our sheriff for doing their jobs, for going above and beyond. Our jobs are not 8 to 5, 5 days a week. They are 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. And I feel this is my way of letting them know how much I appreciate them and look forward to working with them in the future.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Commissioner Trask. So a few points. This has been an interesting process, and it's been a process that's been done out in the open for several months now, and so it has been a fully transparent process, and part of it is, as Commissioner Netherland mentioned, we are in the middle of negotiating a variety of contracts for our represented employees in the county who do a tremendous job. No doubt about it. No doubt about it at all. I can't argue with him on that. I think he's right on there. There are, and so as we went through that process, it also seemed appropriate to have our staff look at comparables for our non-represented employees as well as elected officials. And I know that it's a political third rail to talk about elected official salaries. You go out in the community and you say, what do you think an elected official, a politician, should be paid? They should pay you, but as we went through this process, I was reminded of, we're going to hop in the Wayback Machine here, so bear with me. So there was a show popular in the 70s before I was born called The Brady Bunch. And you might remember a classic scene from that show with Jan Brady, the middle sister. And she wasn't feeling too good about her older sister Marcia, and she just said, Marcia, Marcia, Marcia. Fast forward to 2019 in Mason County, and all we hear about is Casey, Casey, Casey. Big picture. We need to think big picture here in this county. I came into office under a lot of different issues were happening in terms of the budget. A lot of issues were happening in the county that we need to solve. And I'm confident in my record of both holding the sheriff's office accountable and working with them in order to build a stronger future for Mason County. I know that it's maybe unpopular. I know that we oftentimes don't like to talk about uncomfortable policy decisions in the county. Oh well, that's not what this job's about. This job's about having the uncomfortable conversations, and I believe that there are people in this county that are understanding of that deliberative process that we have to have at the county commission level. And so I can assure you, even though the refrain has been throughout this process, you're doing this for one person, you're doing this for a friend, Marcia, 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 not the case at all. Okay? Commissioner Netherland even asked for certain data that shows that we are far off in how we treat our sheriff and undersheriff. In counties that are compared, and I'm going to throw out Skagit County because I know it's amazing that they're still a comparator of ours. But of the non-Skagit counties in our comparables that have an undersheriff and sheriff, Lewis County 5% above, Jefferson County 5% below, Grays Harbor County sheriff is 8% above, Cowlitz County is equal, Cowlitz County is equal, Clown County is 13% above. And then you get to Mason County, and the sheriff is 26% under the undersheriff. That's data I didn't request. I didn't ask for that, but that's good data to know. And so I have moved my position on this from the beginning of our conversations. I initially, and I'm not afraid to say it, I thought we should do what we do for the judges and prosecutor in this county and tie the salary to decisions made by the State Salary Commission. I heard from people that they said that gives away local control. I heard that. I appreciated that. And I said, okay, what is another way that we can look at addressing this one particular issue amongst the elected official salaries? And this is the compromise that came from it. And, you don't always get what you want when you're a commissioner. And, and I respect the conversations that we've had. I've tried to do them in a respectful way that didn't evoke politics in a negative way. I know that I'm not doing this for a friend just as much as Commissioner Netherland isn't doing it for an enemy. Not that he and the sheriff are enemies, but that would be the opposite of what I've been accused of. Okay? So throughout this process, we've had good dialogue. We've had good back and forth with staff on this. And I think we have come up with an imperfect solution to a problem that will continue to plague our county and other counties. Now, I want to move on to a couple of other things. I do want to fact check Commissioner Netherland on a couple things. He said the top 5 highest paid, of the top 5 highest paid in the county, I believe you said 2 were judges, 1 was a prosecutor, and the other 2 were deputies. Is that correct?
No, this was 2 or 3 years ago. I brought the information into him. It was, one was the district judge, because the Superior Court judges weren't counted because there was no money comes out of the county on that, I guess. The other was the prosecuting attorney, and then the next 3 at that time were deputies.
Okay.
I
And,
believe that's 2016. It could have been 17. I think
and
it's
so the highest paid are in the judicial branch, in the criminal justice system, and they reside in the courthouse. The other point that I think needs to be made is, again, we did this in open meetings. We sat and we had these conversations that were open to anybody and everybody that wanted to come in. My door has always been open. My email and phone have been up and running. So this has been an open, transparent process. And we don't have the same responsibility or luxury maybe of doing it in open that we have with union negotiations, which are closed, which are done behind closed doors. And maybe this is this is an opportunity for us to look at how we do that. Other counties have transitioned from closed union negotiations to open union negotiations so that the public can have a better idea of what is happening behind closed doors in negotiating those union contracts, which in large part are based on the same counties that we base this on. And so if there's a conversation that we need to have about labor reform in this county, let's have it. If there's a conversation we need to have about doing business in the public, let's have it, because that's exactly how we did this. Now, I know that this might leave people a little disappointed, a little bit upset. We're going to make a decision here, and we're going to move forward with continuing to build a stronger Mason County. To the auditor and assessor, I appreciate you taking the time to come down here. I will say this, as you know, Commissioner Netherland and I have both given back raises since I have been here. I don't take a retirement from the county for similar reasons that you expressed. And so if this passes, and it sounds like it will, I would invite you to have that conversation with us if you do not want to accept the raise. And that goes for every other elected official as well. And we can factor that into the 2020 budget. And so like I said, we've done that in the past and would be open to doing that with you in the future. And so I look forward to continuing that conversation with you as well. So with that, I will say an imperfect solution maybe, but a solution to a problem that has plagued Mason County for a number of years. And with that, we're going to move forward. Oh, Commissioner?
I want to reiterate what the commissioner said. I want to make it clear that this was all done in the open. I disagree with it, but none of this was hidden. The truth of the matter is, people didn't show up, but it was on the agenda, and it was in our briefing packets, the full amount of the raises and stuff. I did want to make that clear, and I do want to say that we have, both of us, when we were having our budget issues, we both wrote checks back to make sure that we can keep as many employees as we could. So that is always an option. I wanted to make a clarification on a few things when it comes to the undersheriff's salary. He is correct, but we are literally, if you take away Skagit County, that makes us the #1 highest paid undersheriff also in our comparables by a long shot. We're talking almost 20,000 and more than 20,000 in some of it for that position. The sheriff position itself, though, we are where we're supposed to be. As a matter of fact, Island County gets paid $100 more a month than our sheriff does. Island County is one of our comparables. Island County has 83,000 people, so a 30% larger county than us, with a budget, again, that's equal to that. With that being said, we're looking at $100 difference. Now, here's one other difference between Island County and Mason County. Aside from them having a bigger budget and more people, they also have no undersheriff, and then they have 3 chiefs. So they have less administration to do the job that they're doing. Here in Mason County, we're going to be increasing a person's pay by almost $40,000. And we have 4 chiefs and an undersheriff, where Pierce County, 885,000 people, have 3 chiefs and 1 undersheriff. I just want to say our comparables are our comparables. If we're going by our comparables, the 1.5% sits them right up there above. They'd be the third from the bottom, which is we're almost to the middle, is what you talk about when you're talking about 7 comparables that are on the list. But again, I do want to thank commissioners for, although we disagree, when we were having our meetings, it got a little testy at times, but I always felt like they listened to me and gave me the opportunity to speak my voice. And when this is done, I'm sure I'm going to lose this vote. I will sign it, as I have every other thing that I've ever done here as a commissioner. You lose, but you still are part of the same team. And so we will move forward, and we'll try to deal with our unions as we go. And I want to thank them for listening to me when I was venting on those briefings.
Okay, very good. Any additional discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Yay?
And the motion carries.